Welcome to your official race course preview for Ironman Wisconsin 2023. Your swim course for Ironman Wisconsin this year, athletes will enter the waters of Lake Monona as a self-seeding rolling start to begin their two-loop clockwise 2.4-mile swim. Once athletes complete their first loop, you will stay in the water to start your second loop. Don't come back on shore. As you make your final left turn and exit the swim, you'll make your way up the helix at Monona Terrace as they run up into T1. Now, I've covered this race, Wendy. It's a beautiful spectator-friendly course as people are on this terrace overlooking the lake. It's beautiful. You can see everything. How do you approach these two-loop in-water swims as opposed to coming out like somewhere like Lake Placid where you can take a brief break and then get back in the water?
Yeah, I haven't done too many swims where you stay in the water. It's usually you get out, you run a distance, and then you have to get back in. So for me as a swimmer, I like not having to get out and run, because when you go from horizontal to vertical, sometimes that could create some dizziness in some people. Your heart rate's elevated from swimming, and then you got to try to get your body up, and then you got to go run. And then it's a different type of intensity while you're running on the beach or land or wherever you're running on to get back in the water. And then usually you're going from shallow to deeper. So you're usually doing some dolphin dives to get back out on course. And so for a two-loop course where you don't have to get out, you just keep swimming. And I think it's a lot easier, actually, because you maintain that horizontal position. As you go around the first loop, you just continue and you go around the second loop. And there's no change of, that depth of water that you're running into because you're already swimming in it. And so I actually think it makes it easier.
So you go straight out, and then it's all about right turns. Once you're in the lake, all the buoys will be on your right. And strategically wise, what do you tell people when they make those right-hand turns? Because it can get pretty crowded over there. Do you go wide? Do you slow down? Do you kind of just float in the water and put your head up? What would you tell some of these first-timers who haven't done this course?
Yeah, so it's a pretty straightforward course. Usually the buoys are set up about every 100 meters or yards. I can't remember if it's meters or yards. And so they're frequent buoys, so you want to make sure you're sighting frequently, that you're going on course. And I always advise athletes, whether they're beginner or not, to try to go directly to the buoy and try not to go too wide. And if it does get congested in the turns, which I've had some congestion, someone like me, I'm comfortable going kind of like diving under and going underneath the buoy to try to make the turn around it. Or you just, just allow yourself some space, some time to just go a little bit vertical, do some maybe breaststrokes, some treading water just to get your space again and get around that buoy. There are drills that I've seen people do where they kind of approach the buoy, they swim directly into it, and then they keep their back towards the buoy as they try to swim around it.
And as this being a self-seeding, you group yourself with the time that you think you'll finish. So it shouldn't be too congested when you get out there with your fellow athletes who are swimming at a 120, 115, 130 pace and beyond. What do you do when you stand in line? What do you suggest to some of these athletes are going, gosh, what do I do? It's going to be about 15, 20 minutes. I'm standing here just dealing with nerves, and my mouth is getting dry because I'm so excited. I have nothing to drink or eat. What do you do in this when you're standing in line?
So I have a dryland warm-up. So I have a dryland warm-up that I made on the Endurance Hour YouTube channel. And that's what I do when I'm in line. I do some jumping jacks, some joggings in place. Obviously, if it's too crowded, I can't do the jumping jacks with my arms. I keep my body moving. I want to keep my warm up going. So whether I'm able to get in a swim warm up or not, I like to keep moving and to keep active and to keep my energy level up. I'm not someone who's just going to stand there. And at the same time, I'm a stronger swimmer. So I've never been that person that has to stand in line and wait. I know from talking to previous athletes, it's a good time to kind of, make some friends while you're waiting in line and talk about other people's experiences, depending on how long the wait is going to be. And it's something that if you're patient and you're prepared, it's something that you can actually intentionally practice. So you can go to the pool or the lake or the open water swim venue that you're going to plan to swim in, and you can stand and force yourself to wait and and learn what that feels like beforehand, what's going on in your mind, what's going on with yourself physically and mentally while you're waiting to have to swim, and practice that dryland warm up.
And here's a positive with this lake. The average temperature of the water on race day is around 75 degrees. So it's going to be pretty comfortable.
That's very comfortable. The legal limit, legal meaning when it's wetsuit legal, is 76.1. So if it's 76.1 or higher, the wetsuits are not legal, meaning if you want to race and be eligible for prizes, you should not wear a wetsuit. If you decide to wear a wetsuit when it's 76.1 or higher, then they're going to put you in the back of the pack. So you're going to be waiting around longer because you chose to wear a wetsuit. And I suspect for those people choosing to wear a wetsuit when the water's that warm are less experienced swimmers anyways. So they'd probably be in the back of the pack anyways. So I would get comfortable swimming primarily with a wetsuit, but I'd also get comfortable swimming without a wetsuit because 75 is pretty close to the cutoff.
And now your Ironman Wisconsin bike course preview, which is considered pretty hilly. Once you exit the changing area and head to your bike, you got 112 miles through, once you get on your bike, down the helix. You went up the helix to get to transition, go down the helix, and once on course, you will navigate south and then west before arriving at the hilly two-loop course, taking you through the farmlands of Wisconsin. Athletes are known to be met with the most beautiful and challenging hills, with spectators cheering them throughout some of those peaks. In the town of Verona, athletes will be met by crowds lining the streets, cheering them on as they start their second loop and head back to the Monona Terrace. And one final push up the helix at the Monona Terrace, and athletes will find a dismount line and then prepare for their run. Hilly courses, especially on this course, there are some lines where they kind of promote it as a Tour de France type environment where they're right there on the roadside. It's exciting. Your adrenaline gets pumped up, the cheering, the cowbells. It's hard to stay within your zone when you're doing something like that.
Yeah, but I think it's exciting. I think it's good to sometimes get out of the zone and remind yourself while you're there and to have some fun and to enjoy the spectators and enjoy the support that's out there for you and to thank them.
So pacing on a hilly course when there's hundreds and possibly thousands of feet of elevation, how do you structure yourself to make that happen for yourself?
Well, being a two-loop course and being 112-mile bikes, you're going to be in your effort range, RPE wise, on a scale of 1 to 10. You're going to be riding between a 4 and a 6. Try not to let your rate of perceived effort go much above a 6, especially on those climbs, and try to keep it steady while you're riding downhill. Being a two-loop course, if you're new to the area and you're not able to see the venue beforehand, you take that first loop on the lower RPI side so you get a feel of what the terrain is like, so you're better able to manage it the second loop. You definitely don't want to blow up. There is 4,120 feet of gain over 112 miles. So I think the nature of the hills and the rollers, I think it appears and it feels like there's more elevation gain than there really is due to that type of rolling course terrain. Some of the hills you're going to be able to stay aero. Some of them you're going to have to maybe get out of your saddle. So from a training perspective, we've advised that in some of the training details in the training program as far as kind of how to ride hilly courses and how to manage your rate of perceived effort, power, or heart rate when you're on a type of rolling terrain that your power and heart rate's going to fluctuate a lot. Unless you're experienced riding with power, then you're going to be more able to keep it steady, but your heart rate's definitely going to fluctuate. And it just depends on your experience, how much.
Yeah, with the over 4,000 feet of elevation gain, there are dozens of turns per loop. So having to pace and prepare for some of those corners. I remember when I was covering the race, I'd be on the back of a motorcycle. I was following the pros, and there were some hard left turns, right turn, 90-degree turns, some of them coming downhill where you can see the turn coming up. And it's just a matter of rolling with the turns. That's kind of an opposite term, but you roll with those turns and prepare for them. And it's not going to be boring. I can tell you that. There's some long stretches, but even with farmland and cows and fields and hills, this is not a boring course whatsoever, not in my opinion.
And it's been around.
Yeah.
I was wondering, I couldn't remember, is once Wisconsin part of the when Ironman North America used to be around before World Triathlon Corporation bought Ironman North America? I was trying to think back if Wisconsin was part of that because it's been around for a long time. So it's obviously a great course. People love it. People keep coming back each year, and it's a beautiful course.
And there's a lot of patriotism associated with this course since 9/11 because it has been on 9/11. This year it's on September 10th, 2023. So that kind of it can become emotional for people who want to race on the day, carry a flag, and have a purpose behind their race. Their whys can be quite strong on the
Uh-huh.
day. And now your Ironman Wisconsin run course preview this year. This is very spectator friendly. 2 loops taking athletes through the streets of downtown Madison. On their journey, you'll be taken through the University of Wisconsin football stadium, home of the Badgers, before heading toward the UW Lakeshore Nature Reserve and running next to University Bay. As you head back toward downtown, the streets line with crowds, and you will run around the Capitol building before starting your second loop and heading toward the finish line. This, too, is a fun one with a lot of variety on this course. In terms of elevation, not too bad. You're just looking at 694 feet. So it's pretty darn flat, even though at some stages you like, I'm climbing up this hill, climbing. They're very minor throughout the entire race course.
Yeah, again, not much elevation over the course of 26.2 miles, but it may feel agonizingly painful if the hill comes at a certain mile during
Yeah.
the run. It's going to feel like it's bigger than it really is. And again, Madison, Wisconsin, Midwest weather in September, it's typically very beautiful. It's probably the best time of year. When I used to live in Michigan, I loved the fall because the weather is so nice and not humid and could be on the cool side depending on mother nature, but you want to be prepared to run in cooler temperatures. If you're going to be out there past dark, you might want to have something in your special needs bag like a light jacket, or a little, maybe something to put on your head, depending on, again, you're going to know the temperature as it approaches, because it still could also be extremely hot. But typically, from my experience, Midwest weather is pretty nice. I do like the 2-loop course. Again, makes it more spectator friendly because spectators are able to kind of get on various parts of the course to see you, the athlete, and then, you kind of do 1 loop. I treat it as, I'd rather think of it as doing 2 of something rather than running 26.2 miles. I'm running 2 loops. So mentally, that helps me get through the marathon.
Yeah, this is a beautiful course. I remember covering this. I was following certain athletes through parklands. They had a trail that was a bike run trail, in addition to the stadium, the views of the lake, the towns. It's just really neat. I know why it's so popular in a race that is a destination race, and say, hey, if you're gonna do anything, you gotta do Wisconsin.
Yeah,
People,
for
and
sure.
61 degrees is the average temperature on race day. So that's another can be a very comfortable a run course.